Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague, Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And today we are talking about employee transitions. So it's a new year. A lot of times employers are looking at making changes, whether it's a change, a shift in the way that they are operating or the positions or structure, or maybe just there's some employees that looking at performance from last year. Maybe there's some terminations that employers are making this time of year. Getting a lot of questions from clients around how do I ease transition? How do I make sure that things are stable while I'm making these types of changes? What are some things that employers should be thinking about when making big changes like that, Russell?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, especially higher level positions, we see with kind of a reorg, a restructuring, a reduction in force. We've talked about kind of planning for the new year and carrying out that change management. And one of the ways that gets carried out is in these tactical restructurings. So one of the first things I think a business ought to consider when going through this process is how am I going to get from where I'm at today to that restructured organization? Do I need a transition? Do I need this person to hand off their role? Can I move them from this role to some other role within the company where they're still around and can help, but they're doing something different? Or do I just need to pull the Band-Aid off and move on right now? And kind of given those operational needs, that should guide the next set of questions, which is, do I want to give this person a severance agreement? If I'm giving more than one person a severance agreement, I got to figure out how to do the age discrimination compliance aspect of it, which requires special magic language and relevant attachment. And also, do I want to incentivize them to stay around through a transition period? Do I want them to work here for the next 60, 90 days and provide them some sort of bonus for doing so? And maybe that's the severance agreement at the end of the day. So how do I want to fit those pieces together?
I think thinking about timing and how many changes you're making. So sometimes maybe it's a change is impacting one or two people, maybe it's impacting more. And how are you going to roll out those changes so that there's still stability within the organization? A lot of times the changes are necessary. They can even be exciting for some of the people who are involved, especially if you're talking about new roles. But having a set plan of what's a new structure going to look like, what do the job descriptions look like, how are we going to present this information? Because this is a time of year too where we have a lot of people that might be rolling out new policies, or it's just a time of change often when you start a new year. It's kind of thinking about the messaging. All right, well, we're going to be doing some new performance metrics, but also making some role changes, and it's going to impact this group of people, but not this group of people. How are we communicating all of these changes to employees and making sure that we create stability? And some documents that we use for that would be information presenting documents like job descriptions and org charts and things like that. But then also, as you mentioned, Russell, if someone's leaving and transitioning out of the organization, let's say you're going to offer them a new role, but maybe they're not going to take it, or maybe there is going to be a transition out. Well, how do we formalize that into a document, set expectations, and then also considering separation agreements, severance agreements, things that might help aid that transition for sure.
Yeah. And one final point is that I think everyone benefits when there's clarity of a plan. And oftentimes clarity is maximized when it's in writing and everyone kind of agree to it and see it there and know what's going to happen. I think that's something else for business owners to consider as you're working through these types of transitions.
Well, thanks, Russell. See you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.